Imagine a single moment so shocking, so unfair, that it forces ordinary people to rise up and challenge the most powerful empire on earth. Tonight's story is about one murder, one life, whose violent ending became a spark that pushed a nation toward rebellion. Some call it fate, some call it tragedy, but history remembers it as the moment the fuse was lit. This is the murder that started a revolution. Boston, early 1770. A tense, crowded port city crawling with British soldiers. People were angry. Angry about taxes, angry about soldiers taking local jobs, angry that their homes now felt like occupied territory. It wasn't just politics. It was personal. Arguments broke out in taverns. Fights started in the streets. Every day felt like a small explosion waiting for a larger one. And in the middle of this growing storm was a man named Crispus Attucks, a sailor, a dock worker, a man who'd fought for his freedom his entire life. Most history books barely mention him, but on the night of March 5th, 1770, he would become the first casualty in a struggle that would eventually reshape the world. The trouble started near a British sentry standing watch outside the customs house. A young apprentice complained that a soldier had struck him. Crowds gathered fast. Shouts turned into threats. Snowballs turned into chunks of ice and sticks. The air was tense, sharp, electric. Captain Thomas Preston arrived with several British soldiers, hoping to calm things down. But the crowd saw armed men marching forward and assumed the worst. People pressed in from all sides. Fire, some yelled. Not clear who. Some think they were mocking the soldiers. Others believe someone wanted chaos. And in that crowd stood Crispus Attucks, tall, strong, determined. Witnesses later said he was near the front, trying to stand his ground. Then, in an instant that no one could take back, a shot rang out. The first musket slammed back. A soldier fired. Then another. And another. Smoke filled the street. People screamed and scattered. Crispus Attucks fell first, shot twice, collapsing onto the cold street. 4 others would die with him. 5 lives lost. Dozens wounded. One empire suddenly on the defensive. What happened that night would be called the Boston Massacre. But in truth, it was less of a battle and more of a breaking point. The next morning, Boston woke up furious. Funeral processions filled the streets. Shops closed. Beds hung. Thousands followed the coffins. So many people that British officials realized they had lost any control they thought they had. 2 things became clear. The people were done being pushed around. Crispus Attucks became a symbol, whether he wanted to be or not. Paul Revere rushed to engrave and spread a dramatic image of the massacre across the colonies. Newspapers called the victims martyrs for liberty. This one event, just minutes long, turned quiet resentment into a fire. For the first time, the idea of revolution didn't sound impossible. It sounded necessary. Here's a twist most people forget. The British soldiers who fired the shots actually received a fair trial. And who defended them? John Adams, the man who would later become the 2nd president of the United States. Adams believed that even hated soldiers deserved justice. He argued that the crowd had pushed the soldiers to panic, and the jury agreed. Most soldiers were acquitted. 2 were branded on their thumbs and released. But the verdict didn't change what the people felt. The colonies had seen blood spilled on their streets. They had buried their dead, and they had tasted the power of unity. In the years that followed, the Boston Massacre became the fuel that fed meetings, protests, and resistance. Letters traveled from colony to colony. Ordinary people started seeing themselves as something new, Americans, not subjects. When the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, many saw Crispus Attucks as the first man to die in the long journey toward that moment. He wasn't a general or a politician. He wasn't wealthy. But his death exposed a truth that no empire could ignore. A people pushed too far will always push back. One man's murder didn't start the revolution on its own, but it lit a spark that traveled through hearts, homes, and whole colonies. A shot fired on a cold March night helped set the stage for a war that would create a new nation. And it reminds us of something timeless. History doesn't always turn because of kings or armies. Sometimes it turns because ordinary people decide they've had enough. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories that pull back the curtain on forgotten history, mysteries, and turning points, make sure to subscribe. Truth Trove Stories, where every story reveals a deeper truth.